Hello, beautiful people. Happy Saturday, happy weekend, and happy December. So, we entered into the new month, the last month of this year. But for me personally, I already feel 2024. So, anyway, this is my practical application of astrology and personal story share video. So, if you're waiting for the astrological forecast that will be coming out tomorrow, in this one, I'll be talking about my personal experience of this week. So, if that's not what you're interested in listening to, then the next one is coming out tomorrow. Okay, so we had quite a busy week, not gonna lie, and there's been a lot going on in my personal life, not on the outside, more on the inside. So yeah, we might remember because we're still within that week. We started the week with that full moon in Gemini that happened right after Mercury made a trine to North Node. And then on the same day, Mercury squared Neptune. And actually, for everybody's information, this square between Mercury and Neptune is going to happen 3 times because Mercury is coming into its retrograde soon on December 13th. So yeah, and then another very important thing that took place this week was Venus made a conjunction with South Node, opposed the North Node, and this is not the last one. There's gonna be one more conjunction between Venus and South Node next year in September. So all in all, there are cycles ending. New cycles are going to beginning with regards to our relationships, and first and foremost, it all starts with you, and that's pretty much what this conversation is going to be about. I'm just quickly naming the main transits of the week, and then of course yesterday we had Mercury moving signs. Mercury moved into the sign of Capricorn, where it will technically remain until February, but not really, because it's gonna retrograde back into Sagittarius, so there will be a motion between Capricorn and Sagittarius. And this is very important because, as I keep mentioning, especially in my personal story shares, but in my astrological videos as well, that Sagittarius is the lens through which you perceive reality. So I always say to my clients, it's like when you go for eye test and they put all these different lenses in these ugly frames that they plaster on your face. And then depending on what is the lens, it impacts the vision you have, right? And that Sagittarius is the perception through which you see the reality, and that's also connected to our belief system because they impact the perception through which we see reality. So the fact that we're going to have this Mercury squaring Neptune 3 times, and obviously Neptune is still retrograde. Second times that will take place, Mercury will be retrograde, and then the last time they will make a square, it will be when they both actually direct in January. So there I feel it's a lot of reevaluation that is going on for many of us, and it will be even deeper once Mercury actually does go retrograde and then retrogrades back into the sign of Sagittarius, because Capricorn is all about our reality, our tangible structure of reality, is the matrix. And like I said, this Sagittarius impacts how you are experiencing that. And again, this is really what I want to talk about, but I just finished what's going on this week. So yeah, so today we have Mercury actually sextile in Saturn. So this is a positive aspect, especially because Saturn ruled Mercury at the moment while it's in the sign of Capricorn, and this is preparing them for the conjunction. So again, this is coming up towards the culmination of the cycle that began between Mercury and Saturn earlier in this year, and it will end in February next year. And then tomorrow on Sunday, we'll have Venus making the last square to Pluto, but this is again not going to be the last one of this flavor. So Venus is making what we call last quarter square to Pluto tomorrow, and that's all about tension that requires release. And of course, Venus is the ruler of the South Node. We've had the Venus South Node conjunction, and this again is telling us all about the relationships. And because Pluto is pointing to the South Node, which I keep mentioning all the time because it's happening this entire year, there is something that needs to change with regards to our relationships. And this square is going to happen one more time next year after Venus makes a conjunction to South Node in September, and then at the end of September, right after the first full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, because that's the one we're going to be experiencing next September, this last last square between Venus and Pluto will take place. So there is, I feel, a lot that's going to be unrevealing for us, each of us individually and collectively, within this next 10 months period between now and September, but then especially between now and next year's winter time for Northern Hemisphere people. summertime for southern hemisphere, because this is the time when people when Pluto will go into Aquarius, back into Capricorn, and then back into Aquarius for the last time. It will return back into Aquarius for the 20-year transit that we will be experiencing going forward. And this is probably the only time in everybody's lifetime in this incarnation, very likely, unless we all get to live 300 years plus, but who knows, everything is possible. So anyway, so how all this has been showing up in my personal experience, which is what I want to obviously talk about, because it's a practical application of astrology. So on the day of the full moon in Gemini, which took place on Monday, I got hit really hard personally, and I'm sure a lot of people of the early Pluto degree, people born in 1984, 5, potentially even 6, maybe even 7, because Chiron doesn't move that fast. We all have Chiron in Gemini. I mean, there is obviously more of us that have Chiron in Gemini, but this is the early degrees of Chiron in Gemini. And this is what this full moon in Gemini hit. It happened directly in conjunction with my Chiron, and my Chiron is making in conjunction to my Pluto, and there are all sorts of other things happening at the moment in my chart. Saturn is squaring my Mars and my natal Saturn. Yeah, Saturn is squaring my natal Saturn as well. So there is just a lot. And it's all these Capricornian themes, this who is the authority? Who is the one that is creating this reality you are experiencing, and why is it being created? Because, of course, especially now that Mercury entered the sign of Capricorn, that is going to help us redefine and reevaluate that what are these stories. We're always talking about these stories because this is a story. Your life is your story. Your neighbor's life, it's his story. Everybody has their own story, because the reality you are experiencing is unique to you. Nobody else is experiencing reality exactly the same way as you. So you are the creator of this reality. And as I mentioned, how you experiencing it, it depends on your perception of reality, on your experience, what build up this lens through which you see it. So because it was a full moon, this full moon in Gemini, and as I talk about in my astrological videos, it's interesting that it was squared by Saturn, and Saturn turned retrograde on the day of the new moon in Gemini, and there were a lot of other things going on between Neptune and all these lunations, which I dived deep into in my astrological forecast, so you can find more information about that there. But it's interesting that the Saturn is coming up, this Neptune obviously is coming up, and it's all about these endings, because Neptune is, of course, the archetype of ending of the cycle. And again, going back to where I started with this full moon in Gemini that conjuncted my Chiron and activated my chart quite rapidly, and I mean, it still kind of was, making an aspect to my Uranus as well. But anyway, it felt like eclipse to me, personally, because of Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer, is where you have your wounding, and for me, it is definitely Gemini. I mean, Gemini does rule my IC, because I have interception in my chart. So even though it should, based on whole sign system, rule my 5th house, it rules my 4th house, because I have a Taurus interception. So there is a lot of that that is connected to my childhood, a lot of wounding with regards to how I think about myself, and this limited belief system that was created based on the experience and based on the reality I observed growing up, which I know it's a case for so many people. Like, it's not like my case is very unique or anything, and especially having met so many clients and having done charts for so many people, there are a lot of repeating patterns, especially for people being incarnated at this time, because we all chose this time for our human experience for a reason, and that is to take our power back. And the only way to do that is through transmuting that which is making us feel disempowered. So I had an experience on that day, on the full moon in Gemini, which really triggered me, which really brought up a lot of wounding, Gemini kind of, Mercury kind of wounding with regards to communication, and it triggered a lot of belief systems for me and stuff. And that was actually a day where I've decided that, okay, well, I have this Heal Your Inner Child course that I purchased over the summertime, and then I never had the time to start because I put too much on my plate with my astrological course, which I'm still enrolled into, which is more about somatic experience of astrology. Then I had my tarot course, which now finished, and yeah, I just started channeling course, so I have quite a lot going on. With all these courses. Good job that I'm single and childless. Yeah, and now that the tarot course has ended, I was like, okay, well, it's time for this, for this inner child course, right? And I kind of was just procrastinating. And then on this Monday, when it was the full moon in Gemini, illumination of a lot of things, a lot of triggers came up. And I mean, of course, Uranus is dancing around my north node, why not? And Jupiter coming back towards my sun, actually, the day, this is a completely side note that has nothing to do with, and it kind of does, because Jupiter is the belief system, right? The day Jupiter stations direct at the end of this month, it will conjunct my sun again. Literally, it will be 10 minutes away. So I will have two more exact conjunction between between Sun and Jupiter. So anyway, yeah, so this was the day, due to my wounding being rewounded and open, that I decided, okay, might as well. So that's what I did. I decided to dive in, and I was like, wow, this course is intense. It does require a lot of dedication, a lot of work. There is a lot of practical exercises that need to take place, which turns out to be like a counseling session between you and you. And and that's what I started doing. And I mean, I really felt not very high vibrational, not very good at all on Monday. And then, of course, as the moon passed out of Gemini and then kept moving, and I had my lunar return because I'm Cancer moon, things started lightening up. But also what I had observed, it's my patterns, how I approach coursework, and how, of course, my inner child wants to be acknowledged and wants to be healed, but then how do I approach the healing, where if I fall into my old patterns and the way I was taught how to approach coursework and how I was being the limiting belief system I have with regards to that, how things should be done, again, should be done, right? Which, rationally I understand that this is all unique for everyone. There is no one way that fits everyone, not one thing that works for everyone. So I had to observe very quickly how I will have to approach this course in a very different way. Otherwise, I get resentful and I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to get overwhelmed. And then my inner child is like, yeah, you want to help me, but you wanted me to get even more overworked and overwhelmed. So maybe not. So that was interesting for me to observe. And then obviously with this Venus conjunct in South Node, which is closing one cycle, another very interesting things that appeared in my personal microcosm was that, as I already been talking about, that I feel a lot of deja vu, and that's been the story for the literally, my time in Slovakia, my time in England, a lot of deja vus, a lot of walking down the memory lines. And as I already mentioned, it's the same here, even though it's a little bit different deja vu, but the same emotions coming up because Pluto line. The same unhealed wounding, the same, limiting belief systems, all these challenges, all these things, because they want to be resolved. And now another layer of that is this inner child, which is actually a key to everything, really. And oh my God, this course, I highly, highly recommend it. I can put the details in the descriptions if anybody is interested for some very deep work. And if you have the time to dedicate to it. Anyway. So what I wanted to say, that apart from all these other things that are popping up back into my reality, there are also people that I haven't been in touch for a long time that actually first time popped into my reality 1 year ago. And some of those people are kind of responsible, they gave me the push towards starting making my videos and creating my YouTube channels and stuff, and really supported me, especially at the beginning of this year when I was just starting with everything and I didn't know anything and I was so insecure and I didn't even know where to start, nothing. And I had all these people that just started turning up in my life I obviously never met before. Interestingly enough, this teacher that I'm learning this inner child healing course from, she was the connection. She was the the link through which I met these other people. And this week, one of these people reappeared in my life, and we haven't spoke for a very long time. And that was actually on a new moon, this full moon in Gemini, that we reconnected and had a conversation, and let's see where the story goes from there. But it was just so interesting how, with this illumination of patterns, with this Gemini thing, square to Saturn, where do you feel restricted, where you're not taking responsibility, also where you need to reparent yourself, because Saturn is, it's also the parent, right? Like, yes, Cancer is like the mother, is the nurturing parent, but Saturn is like the father. It's like, is the structure, is the one that provides the safety and security. That's why you have the Cancer and Capricorn in opposition. Cancer is the emotional nurturing, and Capricorn is the tangible, is the house, is the fence, is this, this sense of safety and security that comes from the material. The Cancer is the one that comes from nurture, not everybody experience that. I didn't fully experience that, to have this cushy nurturing mom that always gives you a hug wasn't quite my story, but I'm sure there are people who experience this. And my sister, she's a very good mom, so her kids are experiencing a lot of that. But anyway, just to explain that both are needed, because everything, all these archetypes, they come in pairs. So Capricorn and Cancer, they come as a pair, so it's the mother and the father. So it's interesting that this Saturn was square in this lunation. And of course, Saturn, yes, it's emotional maturation, it's your responsibility, it's, all these kind of things, external, internal authority, but it's also like reparenting yourself if that's not what you experience in your childhood, because of course it's still affecting you, consciously or subconsciously, usually subconsciously. So with this Venus, which I started saying, Venus coming into conjunction with the South Node, there are people from the past coming around again, and the new cycle is going to begin, but it's kind of like trying to resolve old patterns. There are still old patterns they are trying to resolve, because, also, like I said, Venus was already in a square with Pluto. The square is just becoming exact tomorrow, but it was already happening because Pluto is square in the nose this entire year. So to me, it's just so fascinating how these things are playing out in a real life, these few very major aspects that took place this week. Of course, like I said, there was a square to Neptune, which is like where, and I keep getting the card, Seven of Swords. Like, where am I lying to myself? Where I'm potentially deceiving myself? Like, what do I not see? And with this Gemini full moon, there was a lot of illumination where I had so much. And this is the thing that I really realized, was that I have so much logical explanation and like understanding of like, okay, yeah, this took place, and and that's why it's like, it's okay, like I understand why, like I had the childhood I had, I know my soul chose it, and I know that my parents, like they've been traumatized and they did the best they could. I understand all that logically, like all that, it's like logically, like, yes, it's processed. But there is a complete difference between understanding something logically and actually emotionally healing that wound. There's a complete difference, and I'm sure that a lot of you healers probably have had that moment of realization probably long time ago, and it's just like, yeah, of course, what did you expect? So it became very profoundly obvious to me, especially once I started diving into this course. And I didn't get very far because I have to pace myself, because it is quite intense. And I need to also be able to focus on other things as well. So anyway, it was very interesting for me to have this recognition that just because I understand why it happened, it doesn't, the inner child doesn't get it. The inner child is like, okay, but my feelings were still hurt. Like, and what, like I don't need that. It's like, it literally is like talking to your kid. You can explain your small child 100,000 times the logical explanation why they can't have something, or why that is not possible or something, and they will still keep asking you the same question, because emotionally they can't understand. They go like, yeah, logically, yeah, like, you can explain a million times, but they still feel what they feel, like, so no amount of explanation, logical explanation, is gonna change the way they feel, because, they're not like wired that way yet. And it's so profoundly interesting how this is the case with all of us, because that inner child still lives in every single one of us. You will never lose your inner child. I mean, yeah, it can stop talking to you, because if you ignore it for long enough, then just go, okay, then you don't listen. But this is why we get triggered, this is why we get angry, this is why we get sad, like especially and I know this is the case for many of us, especially people who have children, like they suppress their needs, they put themselves on a back burner, they sacrifice for the well-being of their kid and stuff. But if you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of anyone else? It's just like, again, there is no logic to it, and it's the way we were programmed and wired and conditioned. And I mean, this is all theory for me because I don't have my own kids. I do have nephews and nieces, but I don't have my own children. But this inner child within you that potentially, might have not been, for most of us, wasn't parented the way it needed, which is why there are so many unhappy people out there walking around the world and traumatize people. And this child still needs what it needs. And that's even what I was trying to explain with regards to Venus and, North Node that was in Taurus, now of course is in Aries. You need what you need. You need what you need, and it doesn't matter how much explanation somebody can tell you that, hey, you shouldn't need that. You shouldn't need that, whatever, that book or something. I mean, I don't know, whatever it is that you need, and other people will tell you, hey, why do you waste money on that? You shouldn't need that. But you need that because you need what you need, even if it's going to just satisfy you for whatever, how long, but you need what you need. And especially if it comes to non-tangible things, like, in my case, for example, I need a lot of time to myself. As I mentioned, I need a lot of time to nature, in nature. Like, I'm Taurus sun, I need time in nature. And I mean, everybody needs time in nature, but some people need it even, like really need it. Like, if they don't get it, it's a big issue. Like, some people are okay not to get it often, and then like, okay, well, it helps me when I'm in nature, but if I'm not, it's fine, I can function. I can't function. So that's what I mean. There is, you need what you need, and you need it because that's how you wired. And it doesn't mean that, you can't change on certain level, but you still need what you need. So anyway, so it's like that, your inner child needs what it needs, and or what it needed. And if it didn't get that because, yes, we chose our parents, all this, there is a rational explanation for that, there was a lesson, we needed to get traumatized to set us on certain path, to accumulate tools. There are all these rational explanation, and they're all 100% valid. But the inner child doesn't understand that. The inner child is like, okay, and what? I still need what I need. And this is something that became so clear to me. And I mean, it makes sense. And of course, I knew it on certain logical level. But I really, really, really had the opportunity to really embody this need this week, to really understand it on a more somatic level. And with all these squares, the Mercury squares to Neptune, which, like I said, is going to be 3 of them, the Venus square to Pluto, and we'll have one more next year in September, like I said, right after the eclipse in Pisces, endings, Pisces, healing, and then that will be the next round of eclipse, Pisces, Virgo, healing, adjustment, healing, integration. And I know that what I'm going through, because I always go through whatever is the energy in the collective. I don't know, that's somehow how it show up, that whatever I'm going through is definitely present in many other people's lives. So like I said, like whatever are the aspects in the sky, usually something, turns up in my life where I have a very good personal understanding of like, oh, okay, so this is what it means. Because I don't know, that's just like, I guess, how I chose to experience this reality, to be able to connect with people and to be able to have the compassion for their experience, even though the details are different, of course, because they're unique to you, unique to your story, your experience, but the energy is the same. So that's why with all this inner child healing coming up at the moment, and I'm oh my God, I've done so many readings for myself, and I'm getting strength, like, which, yes, is number 8, which is the shout out to next number. I'm life path number 8, but it's also the child, because it represents Leo, so there is a certain aspect of it. Yes, it's sun is Leo, and sun is the child as well, but also Leo represents your child, your inner child, your healing, your healing of your inner child, integrating of your inner child. And I know this is like, again, like how people can get triggered by the word, healing and integration, but this is an endless process. It's not something that we will ever complete fully 100% and we're done. That's not going to happen, because we are every single one of us alive, you are not transmuting just your story. Like I said previously, there are multiple incarnations, like all of the soul's memory, which we might not consciously remember, but our essence remembers, our body remembers. That's why when you meet someone, you straight away might have a reaction. You don't know why you don't like that person, or you don't trust that person, or you like that person, or you feel like, oh, I feel like I know you all my life. This is not from this lifetime. So that could be your ancestor memory. It could be collective memory. It could be your own soul memory from previous lifetimes. So don't get mistaken, this is not just stuff you transmuting from your own childhood in this lifetime, because that childhood from this lifetime is a south node, which is a continuation of your past lifetimes and everything that came before, including your ancestor line, collective wounding, the human collective imprint, everything. So that's what I mean. There is not going to be point, I mean, maybe at some point in the future, I don't know, but in this life, I don't think so. Like for us, you know, in our lifetimes where we feel like, oh yeah, I've done it all, I'm done, you know, no more healing needed, everything is done now, like good luck. I mean, I don't know, maybe some people are on that level. You have to speak to Eckhart Tolle. I don't know where he is at, but definitely not, you know, definitely not where I'm at, not nowhere near. And literally when I started doing this course, I felt like, oh my God, this is literally just scratching the tip of the iceberg, like minimally. It's not even like leaving a mark, nothing. And yeah, that's the energy I like, how I understand it, that's been present in a human collective. Because yes, through all this transit, we had all these transits that been taken place, we had the opportunity to learn where you feel disempowered, where you feel restricted. Hopefully you got to understand what do you need, what matters to you, you know, where are your limits, where are your boundaries, or the lack of boundaries, all these kind of things. But now it feels to me that like, okay, now you have the superficial first layer, a realization of these things, and now we have to go deeper. Where did it all come from and why is that? So I was like, yeah, I understand. We all have, like, you know, to a certain level, a lot of people, at least in certain areas of their life, they have certain like unhealthy attachment style, you know, relationship attachment style, and all these kind of things. And there are these, you know, tendencies of parenting, and this and this and this, you know, like all this, like, you know, theory of that, which, like, as I said, you know, like I was mentally aware, like, yeah, these things, of course, you know, I'm aware that exist, you know, it's out there, psychology and all that. But how that actually showing up in my life, you know, how is it, or in your life, how is it impacting you completely subconsciously? Like, do you know why you, for example, for me personally, do I know consciously why straight away when, for example, men like show interest or start flirting with me, my hackles go up, and straight away I feel threatened, and straight away I feel, you know, like, ooh, back up, you know, like have to put a boundary and all that. Like, why is that? Why there is this sense of safety and insecurity and complete distrust, especially when it comes to, you know, my wounded, like, in the feminine, in the masculine, whatever, you know. And this is where the real digging starts. Like, yeah, we have the first definition of like, yeah, this is what I need, this is what I believe, this is, you know, where I feel restricted, disempowered, la, you know, all this, like, first identification of that. Gemini, we identifying, right, the external reality. Full moon in Gemini. Yes, you had the opportunity to identify all this. You know, there was the illumination. Like I said, especially for us with early Chiron, it hits your Chiron. You know, it either happened in a closing phase or a new phase. And now what? Now what we gonna do with all of that? So, like I said, these squares, they play such important roles. You know, this Mercury to Neptune between Sagittarius and Pisces. Sagittarius belief system. What is the story? What is the story that made you? Because, you know, it didn't start with you. And I know there is a book that's called that. It didn't start with you. It started long time ago, you know. And then is this square between Venus as the ruler of the South Node and Pluto, you know, and Pluto is in Capricorn. It's all these Capricorn Saturnian themes are coming up, you know, coming up to the surface. And yeah, and the last, I just made a short video about it on Instagram. I will have to, you know, dive deeper into the into the depth of what it really means. But the last square between Mercury and Neptune, the one where they are both direct, Mercury after its retrograde, and Neptune obviously is turning direct now in December 6th, next week. The last square between the two will take place just before the new moon in Capricorn, and that's another anomaly. We had no new moon in Capricorn this year. We started this year with a new moon in Aquarius, and we will end this year with a new moon in Sagittarius, and next year we'll have two new moons in Capricorn. One is under influence of Pluto still being in Capricorn, and before Pluto had gone to Aquarius and then come back to Capricorn and then move into Aquarius again. And then the last one, which will be the last new moon of 2024, the new moon in Capricorn again, will be under the influence of all that energy. So that's why this is so deep and this is so profound, what we are experiencing, like individually and collectively. And I'm 100% sure that this is coming up for many people right now, this questioning, because Gemini, and Sagittarius, exploration, seeking what is this truth, like what is the story, what is the belief system, where did it come from, like trying to understand the deeper meaning, the higher perspective, like zoom out a little bit, but then we have to go zoom back in, because Capricorn, when we get back to Capricorn, season, well, when we get back to it, I mean, when we ingress into the Capricorn season with the winter solstice, right? Capricorn is a new beginning again, because it's a cardinal energy and it's feminine energy. Again, is earth. We'll have to ground it. So that's why I feel that there are all these things coming up, because it's this active energy at the moment. A lot of planets are in the masculine signs, so it's all this young energy. We're going out there, we're gathering the information, and then we're going to again process it. We're going to redefine it, when Capricorn season, Mercury retrograde, all this. And and then of course we're going to have Jupiter and Chiron station in direct, so there will be even more layer of understanding what all is this about. And obviously Chiron being in Aries, it's all supporting us on this. Where are we heading? So everything, and I mean, I seriously, I don't feel like I'm even making any sense and explaining this properly, but there is so much depth. There is so much depth to what's happening, and I really feel that we cannot, like in my case, I cannot procrastinate and brush it under the carpet anymore, because my external environment is forcing me within. And I started really being disciplined with my meditation, and it makes so much difference, and I know it makes difference. I just I just not always make a time, and then when I do, I can really feel the difference. And now my current external circumstances are making me, are pushing me, are inviting me, but like in a little bit more forceful way, because of the squares. There is attention that needs to be released, so I am forced to continuously keep rearranging my day. So there is no such a thing and set structure. Like, for example, when I was in Bulgaria, I had fairly set structure of my day because of all the client work and all my social media, and I had absolutely lack of balance and lack of boundaries and stuff like that. And then in Slovakia, it was kind of I know what to expect because of the environment. It was kind of adjusting to the environment. And then of course in England the same thing. And then here things are continuously changing, because there is all these new realizations coming to the surface and new things that needs to be done, and in this continuous flexibility that is required, even with this course, in this inner child healing course, I cannot just get rigidly attached and say oh yeah, every day I have to do this and this and this and this. It's not possible, because then I get overwhelmed, because the material is very it is not to be pinpoint and say oh yeah, after you watching this video and doing this workbook, you're gonna feel this way, and then you'll be able to continue and do what you did yesterday. It is not like that. So this is what I feel, that this especially this half a year since Virgo season especially, and of course the eclipses, there is so much instability, and this is showing up in our external environment. There are things that are out of our control, what's going on, like obviously on a collective level, like bigger scheme, like in the world. And then there are things that I'm sure it's showing up, that are showing up in your life, that you have to be continuously adjusting to the situation, because there is this newfound information, newfound knowledge, newfound realization. Things are becoming eliminated, but illuminated both, illuminated and eliminated. Both of those are happening at the same time, of course, because we just had a Scorpio season recently. But yeah, the more clarity that we gain in with regards to our process, the more we are becoming aware, because that's the key to everything, just to become aware, to be able to catch yourself and say like, oh yeah, I recognize this pattern, and now I have the knowledge, so now I can put together the two and say like, okay, now I'm observing, I'm actually feeling it, I'm experiencing this consciously, and I understand the pattern. Now I understand where it came from, and I understand what it means, and I understand why it exists, because what needs didn't get met when I was growing up or whatever, this inner child, and then I can process accordingly, which, like I said, it's a mutable process which is continuously changing and adjusting on daily basis. So there is no such a thing for me right now that 2 days are the same, and 2 days I can like do the same routine or stick with the same thing. Apart from my morning yoga exercise, this is set in a stone. This is not going anywhere unless I'm sick, or unless I travel and I'm in a plane somewhere and I cannot physically do it. But that's it. There is this thing that is like solid, rock solid in my life, but everything else at the moment is like becoming very, very mutable. And right on time, right? Because it's a Sagittarius season, which is a mutable sign. And in order for us to go explore these new horizons and go further than we've ever been before, and enter this unknown experience, because everything that you've already experienced and that is known, if you don't want to experience that, then everything else is hiding in that unknown, in that potential of the unknown. So that's the funny thing, when people want to not want to change anything in their reality, they want to stay the same, they want to do the same thing, but they want their life to be different, like, I don't know, to be married to a different kind of person, or to be rich, or to be having a different kind of experience, usually it's to do with material realm and stuff like that. But they don't want to change anything, so that is not really possible then, right? Because our experience is a reflection of your thoughts, your beliefs, who you are, how you approach to this reality. So that's what I mean. Everything that you don't have in your reality right now, whether it's your relationships, or whether it's your financial success or career or whatever it is, anything. If you don't have it right now, that means that it's in that unknown. It's hiding in the unknown. It's obviously not known, because otherwise you would have experienced it, you would have known it. So that's why I feel with this Sagittarius and this mutable energy, that's what it's inviting us to understand, and right on time, because of course we'll have the new moon in Sagittarius coming up on the 12th. For people in Europe and further, it's gonna be 13th of December, right after the new moon in Sagittarius, Mercury will station retrograde. So it's still direct for the new moon in Sagittarius, but this is exactly what I feel, that things became illuminated on Monday with this full moon in Gemini, under the influence of Mercury making the first square to Neptune, still retrograde at the time. And then now we had the Venus conjunct South Node, cycle ended, new cycle is beginning. And as I mentioned previously, actually the cycle began right, at the time of the full moon in Taurus last year, when Venus was still the ruler of the North Node in Taurus. So what you need, your needs, values, relationship to yourself, self-esteem, self-trust, sense of self-reliance, all this kind of thing. Taurian topic, also survival, right? And that's what all this Taurus impacts. It impacts your relationship to everyone else, because it all starts with you. So anyway, complete sidetrack there. But this full moon illuminated all these things, because all these aspects were already present, and then they become like really conscious to us, because of course Mercury is a conscious planet. It's a very personal planet. It's the fastest moving, beside of Sun and Moon. Mercury is the fastest moving of the other ones. And then we have Neptune, which is the subconscious. So things again, once again, things are becoming conscious to us, the things that were hiding behind the veil. And that's why I keep saying that there is there is this how you say it, glitches. There are glitches in the matrix. The spell is becoming broken, the veil is lifting, and and more things are becoming obvious. And then there is the square, which is saying, okay, now you need to change something, right? And you need to change something because Pluto is just about to go back into Aquarius, and it's gonna have only one more retrograde into Capricorn, and then it's full stream ahead. And then reality is, as it's gonna start changing very rapidly, very quickly. So this is the preparation time. So it's like, okay, yeah, we're not running out of time, but in a sense, astrologically, we have the timeline, linear timeline, when Pluto is moving into Aquarius, and that is happening. Like there is so many things that are not linear. But the fact that Pluto is moving into Capricorn, Capricorn is moving out of Capricorn into Aquarius for the last time in November 2024, this is happening. It's happening next year in a linear fashion. So this is the time of preparation, and that's why after this illumination and before the new moon in Sagittarius, we becoming very conscious. Gemini is the choice. We are able to choose what we're going to do about this. Like which direction we want to go, and then we can see new intentions from Sagittarius, which is the perception of reality, the belief system, the story you want to create, because that's the last new moon of this year. Then we have the full moon in Cancer, which is for another conversation, because there is a lot to talk about that one too, especially as it's happening at the same time as the second square between Mercury and Neptune and Chiron station in direct. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. But this is the last new moon of this year, and to me personally, which I'm sure I already mentioned as well, is that's why I have to keep re-recording the video I posted yesterday on Instagram. It took me an hour to record. I must have had like 20 takes. It was ridiculously hard for me to record because I don't feel 2023 anymore. I feel like I have to keep reminding, like literally I look at my calendar that I have all the transits written for this month, and I was surprised to see December. I thought we were in January already. Like, I am so confused. I really feel like I'm already in 2024. I am surprised to see we are in December. I think we are in January. I am like literally so out of it, apart from the fact that which day is it, but now I don't even know which year is it anymore. It's crazy. So with this, which we mentioned previously, even with my soul sister Marisa in one of our last stars and cards, it really feels that 2023 is gone. Okay, it's gone. Like with this last full moon, it wasn't the last one, but the full moon in Gemini, the last full moon that happened now. I mean, it's not the last one for this year. With this full moon in Gemini, to me, that's it. Things became illuminated for us. So it's like, okay, now now you can put all the dots together with regards to what the hell happened this year, because Saturn went retrograde during the time of new moon in Gemini. And and now we are processing, we're processing like, oh, what just hit us, especially those of us with Chiron in the early degrees of Gemini, like what the heck. And now we're preparing for the new moon in Sagittarius, because this is going to be the decision time. Now, between these two lunations, you are deciding, I'm deciding, we all deciding how we're going to perceive the story of the next year, which is going to be unique to everyone. It's going to be individual experience, because it always is. Because nobody else, just like I said at the beginning of this video, nobody else is experiencing the reality you are experiencing exactly the same way, like 100% the same experience. No one, not even people who are twins, not even they are experiencing the same reality exactly the same way. So now is the decision time. Gemini full moon, the choice. So yeah, you can always change it, always, because you are the creator of your script. But that's why things became very, very clear. I mean, I'm sure it's for a lot of people, it's for sure not just for me. And it's telling us like, okay, where is still the wounding in my case? Or what still needs to be resolved? What still needs to be healed? What brought you to this point? Why do you have this experience? What is creating this experience? Where did it come from? Was by any chance, your mom, your grandma, your great-grandma, all these people before that, we inherited patterns from, were they having the same experience by any chance? I know there is a lot of ancestor healing being encouraged at the moment, which is all connected. Inner child, ancestor, like it all came from before. And that's what it's impacting our present moment, because the reality is creating, the reality of tomorrow is created now. And now with this removal of the time and space, when things are accelerated, it actually might just happen in 1 hour. You might not even wait till tomorrow, it happens instantly, soon enough. So with this Sagittarius, this is literally, you're going to point the arrow into the distance you're going to be walking next year, in the year 8, which is the year of manifestation, is the Saturn, Jupiter quality. Saturn and Jupiter rules number 8, which is the quality of expansion, abundance. So that's why we have to be very, very mindful. Where are we putting our thoughts? Where are we putting our attention, our prana? Because then that's going to get magnified going forward into number 8 year. And I am a life path number 8, so I know a little bit about it. So this is why these things are becoming so clear. They are coming to the surface, and with this, under influence of these squares, and they both, Mercury and Neptune and Venus and Pluto, they are the last quarter squares, the crisis in consciousness, preparing us for the conjunctions, because this is the last square before the conjunction, which for both Venus and Pluto is in February, and Mercury and Neptune is in March, beginning of March, right before the new moon in Pisces. And the full moon in Pisces is the lunar eclipse. So, I mean, seriously, I could just keep going. You see, like the more I keep talking and the more breadcrumbs comes, it just leads to another breadcrumb. It's just crazy. What is Pisces? Well, Pisces is a completion of the cycle, is the healing. It's the healing process. It's the letting go of that which no longer serves us. So what are the belief systems that we are now identifying thanks to Mercury? And we will be re-identifying and re-evaluating when Mercury goes retrograde, especially when it goes retrograde back into the sign of Sagittarius on December 23rd, after its conjunction with Sun, by the way. So it's crazy, it's crazy how all these things are popping up in our reality. And that's why I feel that this month is the in-between month. It's no longer 2023. The 2023 has ended. It's ended, it's not going to end energetically on 31st of December. 2023 ended. I feel it ended just before the full moon in Gemini. It ended. Potentially with the new moon in Scorpio, all this death, death and rebirth, Scorpio, right? Metamorphosis. And now we are in the in-between when you are choosing your next adventure, literally. And then the new moon in Sagittarius is going to be the conception of that. And then with the full moon in Cancer, you're going to understand who are you becoming, because Cancer is about your ego identity. It's about who you are in this incarnation. And that got seeded on the day when the nodes shifted into Aries and Libra, which is the new beginning. You are becoming someone different. Your relationships, everything in your reality will change when you change. And this is the process. This is the journey we are embarking on. But in order to understand where we're going, we need to understand where we came from. And that includes the inner child, the ancestor healing, all of this stuff, which is now becoming so clear and obvious to us because it shaped who you are, but it didn't start with you. It shaped who you are, but it didn't start with you. So yeah, I'm getting goosebumps. So Spirit is confirming. And this is like, it's so huge. Like, I feel I'm just scratching the surface even of this, like, yeah, in my little microcosm where I'm tapping into energies of the collective. So I'm like, okay, this must be happening for many people then. And now is the energy of the microcosm. And we are literally just scratching the surface of the massive iceberg of the unconscious that is, present in the collective energy right now. And that's why this is so important, because, like, the change starts with you. the story didn't start with you, but the change starts with you. And that's why we are invited to pay attention to what is becoming illuminated to us, what is calling to us to pay attention to, what is potentially becoming more and more uncomfortable, because squares, it wants to be released, last quarter square, it wants to be let go, freed, so the cycle can end, a new cycle can begin, cycle of a deeper meaning, Neptune, spiritual growth, awakening. And yeah, what story are you going to choose? Because now is the time. Now is the time with this upcoming new moon in Sagittarius, which I will be talking about next weekend, because it's not until Tuesday the 12th. For people in Europe, Wednesday morning on the 13th. What adventure are you choosing? Because we are in Sagittarius season. What horizons do you want to explore next year going forward? Because now, for everyone, literally for everyone alive on this planet right now, you can start from the fresh page, from the clean page, you know. So that's why we really are in a process of re-experiencing and being faced with everything that we don't want anymore, because it's a decision time. It's like, you know, like they give you a palette of colors, you can see some you don't like, I don't know, brown or something. And no offense to people who do, I'm not saying I do or I don't, I'm just saying that you see a palette of colors and you have an inclination, you say, I like this one, I don't like that one, you know, that's boring, or it's not my type, you know, it's not my taste, whatever. So it's like that. Universe is giving you a full plate and it's just like, what do you want to choose? Like, yeah, everything you choose is gonna have some side effect or consequence, or, you know, everything comes with the good and the bad. But because it's still like, you know, we have to have a full spectrum of experience, because this is a planet of polarity, at least for the time being. But what adventure do you want to choose, you know? So anyway, guys, I'm gonna leave it at that, because already this video is long. When I look at it, it was 5 and 111, 5111, number 8. Again, the number 8 is sneaking in already. It's so mind-blowing. Like, seriously, I am so confused to see we are still in 2023. This is so weird. But anyway, so that's it. That's all I've got. I'm gonna leave it at this, as I said, because I could keep going forever, and I know people have other things to do than listen to me all day. And yeah, it's just that's all I'm saying. Just observe and be very, very conscious what adventure you want to choose on the new moon in Sagittarius. And I will touch up on it next week, but be very conscious, because the palette is open. the buffet is open. Okay, so be conscious, because there are all sorts of energies playing at the moment, because there has to be the polarity, there has to be someone representing the shadow side, so the light is more prominent. So be very mindful and discerning where you give in your energy, because you only have 100% every day. So where are you spending majority of it? And is that what you want? Is that serving you? Is it helping you to create the experience you want to be experiencing? And if not, what adjustments can you make? And what adventure you would want to experience going into 2024. 2024, which is the year 8, is the magnifying energy. So that's why this month is the in-between month. It's a very important month, because you're going to decide what year you're going to have next year. It's not going to happen in January, it's going to happen this month. With this new moon in Sagittarius, which defines the belief system, because whatever you believe, you create. So with the new moon in Capricorn, which will take place in January already, you need to know. You need to know what lens you want to use for your glasses, because Capricorn's gonna make them. Capricorn's gonna like manifest. Capricorn is the archetype and Saturn that turns the formless into form. So now is the time, is the 0 point. Now is the 0 point, the Fool. You unconsciously or hopefully consciously deciding what do you want to experience, because then when you get to number 1, it starts manifesting. So that's why, you know, that's why all these energies are at play at the moment. So anyway, I'm really going now. Thank you for listening, guys. Thank you for your support. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, and yeah, if you have any comments to share, do put them in the comment section. If you would like a reading with me, you can find everything on my website. And yeah, I wish you all a beautiful month of December, and I'll speak to you again soon. My astrological forecast will be coming up tomorrow, so stay tuned for that one. Okay, much love everyone, and bye for now.